Every dollar Iran spends on offense costs Gulf states between $15 and $35 to defend against. That is not a headline. That is the math that determines how long this crisis lasts, what it does to global food production, and whether the copper in your EV battery even gets mined next year. Chris McIntosh at Capitalist Exploits, a fund manager who puts his own capital behind what he publishes, just walked through these numbers in a piece called Bearer of Bad News. And what he found is a cost asymmetry so lopsided that force of arms cannot fix it quickly, no matter how big the defense budget. A few days into the escalation, Gulf states had already burned through roughly $2.6 billion on air defense. Iran's total spend was somewhere under $200 million. Every Shahed drone that takes out an interceptor battery makes the ratio worse, because now you are replacing a multi-million-dollar system alongside the missiles it fired. If that sounds familiar, think Afghanistan. 20 years, over $2 trillion. Started with the Taliban in charge, ended with the Taliban in charge. The cost structure was the weapon. But here is the part Wall Street is still sleepwalking past. This is not just an oil story. There is one industrial chemical, the most produced chemical on Earth, that connects fertilizer, copper, cobalt, and the entire green energy transition to those burning Gulf refineries. And almost nobody is talking about it. That chemical is what we need to understand next. Here is the connection most analysts are missing. When sour crude oil gets refined, one of the byproducts is sulfur. That bright yellow mineral you see piled beside refineries like construction sand. Sulfur feeds the global sulfuric acid industry. And sulfuric acid is not some niche product. It is the single most produced industrial chemical on the planet. Picture it like a kitchen. Oil is the main dish you are cooking. Sulfur is the grease left in the pan. You did not buy the pan for the grease, but without that grease, 3 other recipes in the house do not work. Fertilizer production, wastewater treatment. And here is where it gets really uncomfortable for the electric vehicle crowd. Copper extraction, cobalt extraction, nickel, uranium. All of them need sulfuric acid at industrial scale. McIntosh's research at Capitalist Exploits walks through this chain link by link. The Democratic Republic of the Congo produces around 70% of the world's mined cobalt and a significant share of global copper. The extraction process is brutally acid-intensive. The DRC imports hundreds of thousands of tons of sulfur every year, most of it by sea, much of it from Gulf refineries. Knock those refineries offline, and you are not just squeezing fertilizer. You are squeezing the copper belt. Force majeure declarations are already being flagged across the Katanga mining region. Chile's Codelco has said its cash costs have climbed measurably on the acid shortage alone, and then China, helpfully, announced export restrictions on sulfuric acid effective May 2026, the largest producer pulling the ladder up behind them. So the next time someone tells you the answer to high oil prices is more electric vehicles, ask them one question: where does the copper come from? Now feel how this lands in the real world. Food production is a stack. To grow wheat or rice at industrial scale, you need fertilizer, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur. You need diesel, you need transport, packaging, processing chemicals. Every one of those inputs traces back through the hydrocarbon complex. The research from Capitalist Exploits breaks the world into 3 pictures, and the differences are stark. First, the Americas, largely insulated. The corridor from Canada through Mexico down to Argentina has its own gas, its own oil, its own refining, its own farmland, and short freight routes. This region grows food. It can feed itself and several others. Second, Southeast and South Asia. In serious trouble, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia. All of them import substantial fractions of their urea, ammonia, phosphate, and sulfur from the Gulf. Back-of-envelope math says roughly 2 billion people live in countries where a meaningful urea shortfall becomes a political event within a single planting cycle. Bangladesh and Pakistan have already activated gas rationing. That is not a forecast. That is happening right now. Third, look at the aerial view of those flooded rice paddies stretching to the horizon with smokestacks in the distance. That is the image of a food system that depends on inputs arriving by sea from thousands of miles away. When those inputs stop arriving, planting season does not wait for diplomacy. The monsoon does not send a strongly worded letter. And there is one more number, Macintosh flags, that almost nobody in the market is connecting to portfolios yet. It involves an island, a chip factory, and 11 days of fuel. That number changes everything about how you think about tech exposure. I will get to it in a moment. So, what does this mean for your money? Because everyone you follow on Twitter is still talking about this like it is a 6-week inconvenience. The market is pricing a disruption that resolves by summer. The physics say otherwise. Suppose Iran and Washington shook hands tomorrow morning. The tankers still are not where they need to be. Look at that image of the tanker sitting at anchor in the mist. Other vessels visible behind it, all of them waiting. Owners have spent weeks rerouting fleets, repositioning to alternative lanes, sitting vessels at anchor, waiting for insurance clarity. Maritime analysts put the reroute to normal window at around 2 months, best case. That is without damaged infrastructure. Refineries, storage tanks, pipeline nodes, loading terminals, these things do not reboot. Repair timelines run from months to years. Gas turbine lead times alone blow out any quick fix fantasy. And here is the piece that quietly reprices everything. The person who decides whether the Gulf is functionally navigable is not sitting in the Pentagon or in Tehran. It is the underwriter at Lloyd's of London. Iran does not need to keep the strait open or closed in some binary sense. They just need to demonstrate the ability to strike a vessel once a week. The insurers do the rest. As Macintosh puts it in the capitalist exploits analysis, the real toll booth is not a warship. It is a spreadsheet. Nobody likes being caught off guard. And the moment you realize your portfolio has exposure to Gulf-dependent supply chains, the next step gets obvious. Whether you own copper miners, chip stocks, agricultural plays, or a simple index fund weighted toward companies that assume cheap inputs, this is already repricing underneath you. But the question is not just what breaks, it is what breaks first, and in what order. There are really only 2 paths from here, and both of them reshape how you need to be positioned. Path 1. Tensions de-escalate. A ceasefire holds. Markets rally on the headline. But the infrastructure damage is already done. Repair timelines measured in years, not quarters. Insurance premiums stay elevated because underwriters now have a live scenario to price against. Sulphur supply stays tight. Fertilizer costs stay elevated through the next planting cycle at minimum. Copper extraction costs stay inflated. The green transition timeline stretches out because the materials it needs got more expensive, not less. In this scenario, commodities and resource plays grind higher while everyone celebrates the peace deal. Path 2. Escalation continues. Iran demonstrates 1 strike per week, maybe less. The strait stays functionally closed by paperwork, not by warships. Fertilizer shipments stay disrupted. Food prices spike across South and Southeast Asia. Credit markets crack as corporate margins get compressed from both sides, input costs rising while demand is falling. In this scenario, the same commodities and hard assets perform, but the rest of the portfolio takes damage. Notice the overlap. In both paths, the investors who are positioned in real assets, in resource producers, in the structural commodity plays that sit upstream of everything else, those investors are not scrambling. They saw this coming because they were reading the right research. You can keep navigating this alone, assembling macro signals from a dozen different sources and hoping you connect the dots in time. Or you can let someone who has been calling these structural moves for years do the connecting for you. That is what I want to show you next. Chris McIntosh has been mapping these structural moves at capitalist exploits for over 300 issues of the Insider newsletter. He called energy before it moved. He called commodities before they moved. He flagged Argentine farmland and Vaca Muerta hydrocarbons years before the crowd showed up. He is a fund manager who invests his own money alongside his subscribers. That is not a talking point. That is the filter that separates signal from noise. I told you the investors who do well in both scenarios are the ones who saw it early. This is how they see it early. The Insider newsletter publishes twice a month. Every issue centers on the Big Five, 5 deep-value asymmetric trade ideas screened for limited downside and massive upside. Paid subscribers also get the full asymmetric investing course, so you are not just getting picks. You are getting the framework to evaluate opportunities on your own. Right now, while the market is still pricing this as a 6-week inconvenience, the sulfuric acid shortage, the fertilizer squeeze, the copper bottleneck, the insurance repricing, all of it is being tracked in real time inside that newsletter. If you are not reading it, you are assembling this puzzle without half the pieces. 2 issues a month. No spam, no hype. Real capital on the line. The link is in the description. Do not miss the next one.